What is beautiful about it is that St. Martin is very unique, as we know, with the Dutch and the French side. But there's only one St. Martin. So our cultural heritage, whereas honoring those that has passed before us, also honoring the part that we are unified and we are one people, it's always great to come together with one island, they say, one love. And as a St. Martin or from both sides of the island, it is an honor as well to represent the government of Dutch part of St. Martin on the French territory as a St. Martiner and the minister from this country.
And this is your first time attending to this, right?
This is actually my first time attending to Fish Day. Fish Day has always been in the French Cul-de-sac area, part of the island that I was also raised over 10 years in French Cul-de-sac. But I wasn't as social at the time. But now seeing the unity, like you say, you saw me smiling, right? Because I love to see when my St. Martin people are one. When we come together and fit, when we come together and have different discussions, the networking with one another and how we...
Well, where I come from in Anguilla Island Harbor, which is District 1, fishing is the main industry. My father was a fisherman, so I come from a long line of fishermen. And so we have Festival del Mar in Anguilla on Easter weekend, which is just celebrating the sea. All the food is from the sea, all the activities involve the sea. So we invite the president of St. Martin over, he brings his entourage, so he's reciprocated, invited me to Fish Day, and it's great to be here. It just feels like home because we are celebrating my heritage. The legacy of fishing is what has got me to where I am. All my successes are because, I come from fishermen who dedicate themselves, go out on the sea for long hours, long distances. They're very patient persons, and they are there to improve the economies of the countries that they're from. They provide food for the people, they provide shelter for their families, and then they save a little bit so that they can then send the children to school, and that's the legacy that I come from. But what I find here is that the laying of the wreath for fishermen who have passed on is something that was very touching, very emotional, and that's something that I think we will want to add to our celebration, because we can never honor enough those who have gone before us to pave the way for us to be able to carry on that legacy. We have 200 miles of water to the north of Anguilla, which is our exclusive fishing zone. We'd like to continue to develop that. So this is, a precursor to us being able to honor the legacy of our fishermen.
Well, first of all, it's an event started, if I'm not mistaken, in 1996, from what I was told. And I'm very proud of this event because, again, it's a wonderful opportunity for the people of the entire island, from the neighboring island of Anguilla, the Prime Minister's here, and also our friends in Martinique with whom we have created some link, and now they have a convention, an agreement we had signed between every year. We visit their Fish Day, they visit our Fish Day. And of course their support for the whole development of the fishery industry between St. Martin and Martinique. And then of course there's this one-day celebration where people from the entire island are here, coming in, spending time eating all sorts of fish and enjoying the great entertainment with different bands coming from different walks of life, different areas rather, to enjoy this great moment. So from that perspective, I'm happy as collectivity to be part of this great event. So I'm encouraging all those who hear the song of my voice this afternoon to join in at some given time. Whether it's this evening, I don't know when this is going to be played. If not this year, at least next year, just know we are here annually. And the good thing about it is that year after year, it's becoming bigger and bigger, and more people are joining in. We have to do a careful selection of the booth holders because everybody see the need to be part of it. So I'm very much contented with the kind of support that this Fish Day event is generating, and I just hope it become a part of the products that we could market at the international scene as our event on St. Martin, like how other Caribbean islands have their jazz festival, their culinary festival, whatever festival. We have Fish Day as an event that stands out among other events as well. So I'm very grateful to the organizers, the whole entire cultural department and others who one way or the other have making significant contribution to keep Fish Day growing, becoming larger and better each year. So again, thanks to everyone for making their contribution.
This is crab and dumpling.
This is clap and dumpling.
Crab and dumpling. And this is tongue soup. This is the tongue soup.
Okay.
This is stew kongs. Stew kongs. This is pigeon peas and rice. And over here, we have cassava. And this is breadfruit. And we have stuffed Christophine. Stuffed Christophine. We have fried fish. Fried fish. And we have shellfish. Ah, yeah, in mashup. Shellfish. We also have conky. This is conky dukana. Conky. We have stir-fried vegetables.
Your social and health insurance is your social and health insurances.
Are you SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
Your social and health insurances.
And then on Friday is a big day because we, of course, have meetings about GEBE. And that's also something that I think, ties back into that relationship development that I have always championed since being in Parliament, where it's like we have to have these conversations. We have to maintain these relationships because in times of crisis like now, you're going to see what is possible with the people that are your friends. You understand? And that's really what diplomacy and foreign affairs and relations is all about. And we also have a role to play in that. So I think that's when people ask me, well, what's important about IPCO? Well, because the people that were texting me to ask, what is going on? How can anybody be of assistance? It was my colleagues that I've met over the years in the Netherlands, Curacao, and Aruba. So I think that's where I'd like to keep it, when we talk about that. So yeah, which brings me again to you said GEBE, guys. So as we know, earlier this week, there's been a lot of chaos, from the blackout that we had previously to the engine leak that made them have to take an engine offline so that it could be worked on. I think, how can I say? We've come to a critical point, of course, in GB's existence. And I heard about the public information session because, luckily, PFP candidates were there. They were present. MP De Weaver was there. Rosalinda, David, Nelly, and Marvia were there. and they were, of course, reporting in. First, shout out to Melanie Schwazi for the running thread on Facebook about it. I read it when I got up the next day, and I was like, "What?" Um, a lot of interesting answers coming out that have never really been answers given before, and I'm gonna work myself to kind of like put all of those into like a document, because I think it was great. I think, Melanie, if you feel like it, if you have the energy, or someone else can do it, put everything into a document, kind of like how Parliament gets questions and answers from the government. Because when I read some of the answers to some of the questions, I was taken aback, because these are things that I've been asking GB in Parliament for quite some time. And yeah, the feedback received was that the session was appreciated, but many left very frustrated about the level of transparency and accountability that got us to this point. You understand? And I think when we most people told me, even my own candidates, that there were no real concrete assurances about overcoming the crisis in the short to mid to long term, which is not helpful, I think. And I think that from a communications perspective, I think GB could improve a lot on their public outreach. These seem to be efforts and energy that should have been put in maybe since the hack, to be honest with you, instead of relying on the government of the time to communicate what was going on. Because as we now see, that what was being played, is not what has been said to us has not been the truth, to be honest, to really break it down. As coalition MPs, MP De Weaver and myself have urged the government to have better communication about the current energy crisis, and to give as much needed reassurance as possible to the community. So we continue to push for that, even in this capacity that we have now. And I want to also touch a bit on the fact that I've seen very interesting, how you call it, how do I say? I've noted, let me put it professionally, I've noted the recent calls for collaborative action to combat energy issues by the former Minister of Rami, and as well as other candidates from the National Alliance, who work in Rami, in permits, infrastructure, except whatever it is right now, in regards to the impact on the grid, from large developments. And I think, the reality is that the call for collaboration is too late, guys. PFP on numerous occasions, we have tried to offer suggestions. We've asked the former minister, to hit the pause button in the past on large scale developments. And, the response was, well, I can't stop persons from building on their own land. And that the revenue from building permits is what carried the country through the COVID-19 pandemic, when there was limited economic activity. And I think, that's unfortunate to hear, because what it shows me is that there was no interest in actually looking. There was no really critical thinking applied. I don't think anybody has to be. You don't have to be an engineer. You don't have to, be an urban and spatial development specialist or so to see that we would have ended up here eventually with the grid. It's to me, it's common sense. But what it does also show me is that, at the end of the day, we as PFP, and I've in discussions with the chief of staff of Rami, Rayon Peterson, his whole goal has been to improve that communication, in the permits process and such with GB, and it's also telling me that, it's now is when they're getting the most info that they have. Now GB knows specifically how many permits have been approved in the last year and a half, leading up to today and leading up to this energy crisis that we're in now. I find it, a little nuts and bolts, that the former head of permits, now head of infrastructure, or whatever the role is, that the pushback is, well, Rami never informed GB. No Ministry of Rami or Public Works, or whatever we were called before becoming a country, has ever done that. But, the good thing about, or the thing that I would expect for 4 years of stability, is that the ability and the opportunity to set a new precedent was there, but it wasn't set. And now it's left to us to set that precedent, which I don't mind. I have no issues being a trendsetter. We're already doing it. From style of campaign, 2 people on an interview, like we see it. Like, thank you for the flattery, but I would prefer that the copy paste or the imitation goes beyond that, and then it goes to tangible things. Had all my ideas or all our ideas as PFP been borrowed by the past coalition in terms of things to fix the ministries, especially the Ministry of Rami, I would have been a happy camper. Like, I would have been like, all right, you're welcome, But I'm glad to see it happening, because that is what is actually country above self.
Mr. Felici, since you are the CFO, you are in charge of all the money.
Yes.
Let's start with you. Can you give us a better understanding of the social and healthcare funds which is managed by SZV?
Yes, of course. As you know, SZV has the mandate from government to execute and manage the funds on their behalf. And these funds are for social and healthcare, insurances. What does it mean? In a simplified version, insurance is consisting of 3 main components, of which you will see in all our financials, also the financial highlight. The main one is the premium, so we need a premium.
Right.
And we need a premium to be able to pay benefits. So benefits is the second, main component. The third component is if you have more premium than benefit. So what you do is you invest, that portion of it.
Mm-hmm.
And what you have is your operations to be able to carry out, these tasks, these main tasks. So those are the 4 main components, I can say about managing the funds, on behalf of government. And that's how we approach it.
Okay.
Yes.
What can you share with us today about the current financial status of those funds?
Yes, of course. As I mentioned, you have a premium, you have a benefit, and you have investment. Of course, if your premium is not enough for your benefit, then you start getting in, financial problems. And what we have is our social funds, which is the AOV, the AWW, so the seniors pension, the widow and orphans pension, what we call severance pay, and TIA, are quite healthy. So the premiums are enough to cover the benefits. And with the healthcare funds, which is the ZV, the sickness insurance, accidents insurance, what we call also FZOG, that's retired former government employees. Mm-hmm. Those are funds which the premium is structurally lower than the benefit. And what it entails, this happens through the course of quite a bit, some years. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, the country has gotten instruction from CFT to handle this situation since 2014. So basically since 2014 we're working on the reform, we call it the healthcare reform. And one way or the other, the proposals are there and they need to be executed, etc. But those are the funds that we have structural problems with. We're in constant discussion with government. We also
Your social and health insurance is your social and health insurances.
Are you SZV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SZV is cardless. Request your My SZV account today and enter the virtual office of SZV. Go to szv.sx and sign up now.
Your social and health insurances.
Comprehensive training was provided for people preparing and handling food, as well as other stakeholders prior to the ICC T20 World Cup. The Pan American Health Organization was one of the key agencies working with the Ministry of Health and Wellness facilitating the process. Dr. Prajot Singh is PAHO Advisor, Health Surveillance, Disease Prevention and Control. He says with the World Cup expected to attract thousands of visitors, all measures were taken to ensure there was no outbreak of foodborne illnesses. Dr. Singh says PAHO has been working to conduct outbreak investigations and food safety training, as well as sensitization workshops.
So Barbados has been doing pretty good amongst other countries also. We see currently the practices, the food handling practices that are being done and conducted at the site, at the event site, and they have been pretty good. We ourselves have been training the Ministry of Health and Wellness on major initiatives related to food safety. We have done trainings of environmental health staff in ensuring and making sure how to actually do these assessments.
Dr. Singh adds that while the Ministry of Health is responsible for enforcing good food safety practices, consumers have a role to play as well.
As PAHO and WHO and FAO advise that we should all follow 5 basic practices of food safety, which is to keep it clean, to make sure that the cooked food and uncooked food is separate, that we cook our food very thoroughly, that when we store our food, we store it at safe temperatures. So when you say safe temperatures, either put it at -5 or below, or keep it at 60 degrees centigrade and above. And you don't want to keep the food between that. Let's say you cook your food and you cook food and keep it out for 4 or 5 hours.
The Food and Agriculture Organization was also involved in the sensitization efforts. Sub-Regional Coordinator for the Caribbean, Dr. Renata Clark, says Barbados and other countries in the region must be applauded for working with relevant agencies to make sure food safety guidelines and recommendations are maintained.
And that people can enjoy Barbados, enjoy the World Cup cricket without having to wonder, is this safe? It is safe because there's been a history of information about food safety, and leading up to the event, the government had the foresight to be reminding vendors and retraining vendors. Okay. So it's important that people understand that food safety, we can't ever be complacent about food safety. We have to keep working for food safety, and this is the whole point of World Food Safety Day, to keep awareness high, because it is a shared responsibility.
Representative of the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation, ICA, on Agriculture Delegation in Barbados, Alistair Glean, stresses that evidence shows that annually people get sick from eating food. He says this is why observing World Food Safety Day is important, to highlight the value of producing safe food. Emphasizing the point, Mr. Glean refers to a video circulating recently in another Caribbean country showing a consumer highlighting rotted food they had bought.
And for ICA, this is one of our flagship programs. We have 6 flagship programs. This is one of them, Agriculture and Food Safety. And for us, earlier this year, in partnership with USDA, we would have facilitated the training of an estimated 20 businesses in Barbados to become PCQI, and that is Preventive Controls Qualified Individual. And as part of the U.S. Food Safety Modernization Act, FSMA, it requires that each business exporting to the U.S. has a PCQI person on their staff. And that's important if we are to access overseas markets.
The theme for this year's World Food Safety Day is Prepare for the Unexpected.